Okay, Laquitius, stand by. We're only going to do an hour tonight. That's the goal. It won't be, but that's the goal. 3, 2, 1.
On this episode of the John 1911 Podcast, the Hirtenberger Diet, 1980s mercenaries, SA-85 repop, and drones will be more regulated than machine guns. Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Mongo and Marky, and this is episode 400 of the John 1911 Podcast. Today is Monday, April the 6th, 8:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It has been an eventful few days, and I am about a day and a half too late on the pod. So much for getting pods out more frequently. But, here we are. At least I'm getting them. I can get them in at night now sometimes. So that's always a good thing. So, Mongo, how you been?
I've been doing great. Nice weather here. Still getting older.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, getting older is getting older, you realize at some point in life is like a blessing. You're like, oh, wait a minute. What am I complaining about?
Yeah, I woke up another day.
Yeah. What's the weather like down there right now?
Oh, it's been raining the last couple of days, but right now it's been nice and clear all day today in the 70s.
That's good. We had it got really hot, and then we had a cold front come through, and we were in the 80s, and then all of a sudden it dropped to like high 38s, and then with wind, it was crazy. So, before we get into all the topical stuff, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Have you ever been fly fishing?
I once. I was not a big fan of it. It's hard to fly fish with a beer in one hand.
Oh, okay. The one-armed bandit problem. So, the reason I'm just trying to figure out, anyone I know that might have experienced fly fishing, because I unexpectedly found myself fly fishing this weekend, and I just, I'm kind of digging it a little bit. So I was in Washington and, had some scheduled meetings, a bunch of them canceled. The one early meeting went through, and I think this is the day of the shoot down. I kind of tell things were kind of different in Washington. And I'm like, fine, I'm out of here, baby. I went and stopped and got a gourmet burger, and then I drove to West Virginia and was going to go to this gun store. Instead of coming back to Ohio through most of Pennsylvania, if I go through West Virginia, I can hit some gun stores, like these old country gun stores. And the first gun store I hit, I guess business isn't good. They had a sign up, and they were like, by appointment only. And I'm like, oh, that's never a good sign. So it's like, well, shit, what am I going to do? So I found an outfitter that sells stuff, and I bought a portable fly rod or a collapsible fly rod, and went to this stream by this dam that was behind bathrooms. It's like the gayest ass fishing ever, but you pay $3 for a day license, and I spent some time fishing. So I was like, I had taken a class some years ago on taken 2 classes, but how to do the fly fishing, and I still had. I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. And it was instead of doing it with a bunch of people, and it was kind of a formal setting. When I had done it, I'd never done it on my own, and I was like kind of digging it a little bit. I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe, I might pick that up.
A stream behind bathrooms would lead you to the maybe a brown trout joke, but
yeah, I don't know. It's like it was kind of bizarre, and but it was gorgeous. And then what happened was, I'm casting and doing all this stuff, and I'm trying to reach into these, I don't know what they call them, breakwaters or down waters or up waters or whatever it's called, but like under some whatever. And again, I don't know what the shit I'm doing. And people started like watching me, because I guess to them it's really romantic. Like, oh, there's a guy fly fishing. Some people like taking pictures and then asking me questions.
Are you posing for him?
It was kind of bizarre. Like, you could just tell people had this romantic image of what it's supposed to be. And I'm thinking, if you, like, I don't know shit about this. So, I mean, I'm sure I'm terrible at it. So,
were they pointing at you and look at that hillbilly? He knows how to fish.
Yeah. I think maybe fly fishing in, I don't know. I'm sure what I'm about to say is wrong. Maybe fly fishing in West Virginia is too fancy. I don't know, but it got a lot of attention. So yeah, I'll just, since it's portable, I don't even have a net. I just had a rod, and they took pity on me and gave me some flies. I just put one on and started throwing. I didn't catch anything. I don't even know if there's anything to catch, but I'll probably keep the rod and maybe keep some fishing gear in the truck. And there's plenty of places to fish out by the range. And
were there any bugs out? May have been too early in the year, right?
Maybe. I know that the woman behind the counter, I guess she knew quite a bit about fishing. She mumbled some comment like, I don't know, there's going to be too many biting today, but I told her, I said, ma'am, to be honest with you, I hope I don't catch anything because I don't know what I'm going to do to get it off the hook. So it's like, at this point, catching something's going to not be the greatest thing to happen right now. So it's just like, I'm going to go out there and just, I was basically practicing, and I was like, oh, it started to come back to me and like how to dress a line and then like back and forth to get the length and then, whip it out, get it going. Of course, whipping it out, by the bathrooms, again, these jokes write themselves. So, but yeah, it was a good time. So, yeah, that's my fly fishing story. So, and since the late great poisoning, it's been interesting because I have to wear this device on my arm called a Whoop app or a Whoop product. It's like a health monitor, and it logs all kinds of activity, and tell it like you're lifting weights or whatever. And when I've been slowly working out again, apparently my oxygen is terrible. Like, but they call it the VO2 max or whatever, which is fine. I need to work on it. But I was like doing stuff with the tractor, getting stuff unloaded, disconnecting stuff, running around doing, and this app thing started flagging me saying, hey, we detected activity. What was that? Like, what do you mean? So then it had this giant menu of all these activities that you're doing. And it had gardening or yard work. So I was like, okay, I guess a tractor counts as yard work. But I was going through the list and I was looking for shooting. And I think they had sporting clays as one of the activities, but they had one thing in there. It's called tactical. And you remember the Green Army men? Like, remember the one that like was the one crawling on the ground with its knee cocked up?
Yeah.
The symbol in the Whoop system for tactical shooting, they call it tactical, is that Green Army man, except he's not green. And I was like, holy shit. So you're telling me, like, when I'll be shooting drills this week, that the doctors will be seeing that as, hey, you're getting activity. We like that. Like, that's me. That's, for as far as they're concerned, that's working out. I'm like, are you telling me now that shooting guns is working out? This is going to be awesome. I'm going to be working out all the time. So, yeah, that's my life right now. So you sound about as interested in that as watching paint dry.
Well, I was going to give you a little, if you're ever coming up with, need to come up with trophies for a shooting match, or specifically, I did it for a subgun match once here. I took those little green men and I put them on top of a little plaque and painted one gold, one silver, one bronze. And those were the, they look like those were the trophies for the winner and the second and third place guys.
That's, we actually had, that's a good idea. We had, we toyed with the idea. This was 10 years ago, about maybe having like, I don't know, like an intramural type little shooting match at the range, John1911 range. It'd basically be invite only, be just cops and people we know. And we would have maybe like a trophy that we would hand around to each other, like, oh, you're the, king of the mountain for this quarter or this summer or this season or this year. And the idea was, well, let's go out. And this, again, you realize you deal with cops, so they deal with high points all the time. Was to get I get a high point real cheap. I could legally demill it and destroy it, and then, cobble it back together, spray paint it gold, mount it to like a plaque, and then it'd be the John Knight, it'd be the King of the Hill trophy, be some get it out gold plated high point that mostly these cops would be passing around to each other. Maybe we'd have like their name on the plaque or something for the year or for whatever it was. So that was an idea that we toyed with. But I think the Green Army Men's probably a better idea. So,
well, hell, a gold high point would probably be cheaper than actually buying a trophy.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. So, especially if you can get one that's been, crushed or whatever. So yeah, there's all kinds of things you can do when you're, but you had to make sure it was, like it's actually legally not a gun anymore, because some of the cops would be coming from across state lines, and we're not going to have to transfer this trophy back and forth. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it got out of hand. It got out of hand real quick, and it was like, well, maybe in the future. I got a lot more stuff going on, so.
You remember those zinc cast metal 22s that they used to sell? I think they sold them for $50, and they cost the dealer like $15. And
there's a Bryco or
I can't even remember the name of the damn things, but they were utter crap.
Yeah.
But some of the local dealers used to order a whole bunch of those things, and when they had a gun buyback, they'd just walk up there and they'd give them $100 for the damn things.
Buy them for $15. How would they dispose of them off their books? Just
I don't know. I didn't go that far into it with them.
It's like, I don't want to know anything about. I don't want to be part of this conspiracy. So now, so you want to talk about guns? You want to talk about downed fighter planes? You want to talk about Trump's deadline? You want to talk about gun projects? You want to talk about your MP5 SD sickness? We got all kinds of stuff we can talk about.
Oh yeah, you have corrupted me again into wanting an HK MP5 SD again.
Dude, you're the one that got on the internet and told everybody how shitty roller guns are and how they break all the time.
I didn't say that.
Well, you said that you broke rollers all the time.
No, roller retainers.
Oh, I'm sorry, retainers. They'd still run, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I agree.
Yeah. I think they've changed the design from what I've seen to stop that, but we'll see. I don't know. But it'd be semi-auto anyway. I wouldn't be putting the number of rounds through it.
Yeah. So what do you, well, go ahead, actually, because this is, we had talked about these MP5 guns. And
right.
Brugger and Tomei and all that. And then off pod, you and I are talking, and you go, well, actually, Marky, you said they were bringing in the MP5s, and that's not technically correct. They're bringing in the SP89s because those are technically pistol receivers, not rifle carbine receivers, and H&K won't do, so I'm surprised I didn't hear from any H&K dorks about that.
Yeah, it actually turns out they are bringing what they call they've got the SP5 and they got the SP5L, which is a 16-inch barrel sticking out of a pistol. Because everything they bring in is pistol. They can't bring anything in that's considered a pistol caliber carbine anymore.
Yeah.
So it's all a pistol, and that looks ridiculous. But you do have a normal 3-lug
quote MP5 with it's kind of like the FBI single fire, safe fire trigger group on it. And they actually are sticking the paddle mag release on them. And you're looking around 3,200. Well, I guess we can't say that, can we?
No, it's podcast. You can say whatever you want.
All right. It's around $3,200. I saw was the cheapest price they came in. My problem was I was looking at all these different brands and everyone was saying, oh yeah, we got great quality. And then they all seemed to taper off to crappy quality, then back to better. And I guess HK was the only one that wasn't having the crap quality problems.
Yeah. So, I remember the Zenith ones were like real hot for a while. Then you saw a lot of complaints about them.
Yeah. I think it's basically comes down to, how fast they're trying to turn them out or whatever. So my thought was, since the SP5s are available for around $3,200, now I need all the HK gunsmiths I used to know have retired or passed away over the years. And I need to start researching, I guess, who can do an SD conversion, because I'd kind of like an SD. And back when I had a full auto MP5, I was talked out of an SD, and I started reading into them again, and I forgot that if you don't remove that suppressor while the damn thing is hot still, it can carbon lock the damn suppressor on it because of the barrel porting is way in the back near the chamber.
Yeah.
And there's just so much crap comes out of those that it can carbon lock on there easily. So you basically have to unscrew it while it's still hot.
So if it technically carbon locks, would you go out and do a mag dump to heat it back up to get get it off?
Yeah, that would be my guess is the best way to do it. But you may be stuck one way or another. It becomes downright a pain in the ass because you're going to be an issue there. But, now it's that's always been 2 tax stamps. But of course now both tax stamps are $0. So I'm like, okay, that's fine with me now.
Yeah.
And of course,
I think
compared to the price,
I think the SD guns are eminently usable. Like they're eminently practical for the average home gamer. That 9mm, they're fun to shoot. Your kids can shoot them. Your girl can shoot them. You can do, shoot small animals around your property with them and not bother people. You could use them for home defense and not blow everything out. I think they're immensely underrated or underappreciated guns by the average person. And I think that's simply because of the machine gun tax stamp thing.
I used to, when I had an MP5 before I sold it, of course I had a standard MP5. I didn't have the SD. And so I'd reload for it. And this was back before 147 grains were really available. So I bought me a Dillon 1050 and I'd crank out all the ammo I needed. But I'd love to be able to just buy cheap 9mm ammo and throw it through the gun and be subsonic.
Yeah. Oh,
so that's a nice part.
Yeah. That's also kind of the appeal too for the Delisle carbines. Like it's on my to buy list is, you can just, a real one is 1911 magazines, 45 ACP. You can do pretty much a lot of the same stuff with that as you can, I described with the MP5 SD. I just think they're just great guns to have. I'm not saying it's like if you only could have one gun, but I think if it was in, if you could only have, say, 3 guns, it would have to be one of those 3. It's that usable, for a lot. So.
Yeah, I had a Delisle for a little while, and not a real one. It was a U.S. made copy of it. Mm-hmm. And I ended up selling that off, because I got a grease gun, an M3A1, and I've got a suppressor barrel and a suppressor, and they port that barrel down as well. Of course, 45 is already subsonic, but those bullets you can actually watch go down range because they've ported it off some more, and they're so big it's like a bumblebee out there. You're watching the bullet just fly out there, and it's
like a full jacketed bullet where the base of it is jacketed in the right sunlight. You see it going down range. It's crazy.
Yeah. And subgun, of course, you get a stream of them, so it's easy to pick them up.
Yeah. Yeah, but a guy like you though, it's hard. It's probably if you got a grease gun with a can, Delisle was like, okay. You'd rather send angry bees down, with full auto instead of one at a time. Like I think a Delisle would just wear you out mentally. You'd be like, oh God, I gotta turn the handle, pull it back for every shot. Like this is exhausting.
Actually, I don't know. I always got a kick out of the Centurion, which I mentioned in one of the articles on the website. Was a 45 ACP that the government bought. That was a bolt action rifle that they bought for, guard dog and sentry killing. And of course, this was quite a while ago. And Robert Pazza invented that action, and AWC made the can for that. And Pazza lent me his gun and I took it out to the range, and I just loved just shooting those 45s out of a bolt rifle. There's just no recoil, and it's something fun about being that quiet, just plumping away with a 45 on it.
Mm-hmm. And ammo's everywhere.
True. Yeah. Well, I bought 10,000 rounds when I bought my grease gun of Wolf steel cased for $124 1,000. So I still got a good pile of that left.
Yeah, you did pretty good with that. So, yeah. So are you just thinking about an SD project, or are you fully committed to it at this point?
I'm more committed every day, I guess, to some extent. I'm still researching it. I start thinking about the different expenses. Of course, you're going to have to buy a butt stock, but I just want a regular HK fixed butt stock. When I owned my MP5, that was the best butt stock to shoot with.
Yeah.
I had a collapsible as well, but I always kept the fixed one on it because that's the one that felt great to shoot.
Yeah, that's the most comfortable, most ergonomic. That's true with most of those.
Yeah, and they've got. I normally used to shoot open sight, and I had shot the MP5 so much, I was so good that I never bothered even using the sights when I was shooting open sights. I wouldn't use the sights. I'd just look over the top of the gun, and I knew where I was going to hit. It's kind of like when you're a kid with a BB gun. You shot your gun so much, you instinctively know where you're going to hit it. Granted, the range is not really long, but the MP5 was the same way until I stuck a scope on it and started shooting collaborators in their subgun matches. But
and that's that again. That's a lot of the practical side of, say, these pistol caliber carbine SD guns. You shoot them so much, you get really good with them. Because they're practical and they're fun and they're, not really expensive and you're not really shooting them far. Yeah, I just think it should be a goal for every person. So, well, I'll tell you what, I've been, I've got the SD project that I want to do. I've got the SLA project that I need to get threaded because I want to turn it into a Coyote gun. But unfortunately, I bought a lot of projects here, or bought a lot of new guns here in the past, I don't know, 7 or 8 or 9 days. So I gotta take a breather before I pick all that back up. But if I can find, when I'm shopping around looking for someone to thread the SL8, I'll sniff around and see if there's anybody that they do the SD conversions if it's worthwhile. Would you do the FRT system?
Probably not. I would consider it, but the whole problem that, and this is the problem with sub guns or machine guns in general. There's so damn many ranges, it just will not allow rapid fire or will not allow you to shoot full auto, because they think you're going to be one of these jackasses that spray everywhere and go over the berm and everything. So unless you've got your own range, so you don't have to worry about it. And I've got a friend that has a ranch that we go shooting the machine guns at. But to some extent, I like, if you've got a PCC that's just semi, granted, the FRT supposedly you can pick up the ones that'll be select fire, or quote select fire. Then that would make a real difference. But what I didn't like, and I'd only go the FRT if they stuck with the same trigger pack type deal. The ones that I've seen so far have basically grafted on what looks like a M16 or AR-15 type grip and aluminum lower. And I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to use the same FRT from the M16 or the AR-15 class, so that they don't have to design a new one. But I've also heard about people designing an FRT to fit in the HK's trigger pack, so we'll see.
Yeah, I've seen the AR-15, at least the one company in particular, and they even have it broken down where you have to tell them if you have a Century gun, an SP5 gun, or like a PTR, some other type of, and it depends on which trigger pack you buy.
Yeah, so, it'd also be not. It's probably a need to know. Probably have to find out whether or not you need a full auto bolt carrier, because they cut the tripping notch out on an MP5 when they make them semi-auto, so that bolt carrier doesn't have that tripping, and I don't know how they do the FRT along those lines, if they use that tripping notch or not.
Yeah, these FRTs, and I was looking at them because I was going to do that B&T gun. Yeah, woulda, coulda. But they were about $550, $575 for the whole trigger pack.
Right.
So, and when you buy that you're on the list. If they ever come around looking for them, you're going to get a letter, you're going to get a visit, when they decide to, to go after the FRTs. It's like, yeah, you're buying this whole pack from this company and they're shipping it straight to you. It's like, yeah, you're on that list. Absolutely.
So also suppressor type would make a difference on what we're looking at. I noticed that B&T sells a suppressor specifically for fitting on MP5s or SDs, MP5 SDs. And those, the problem is going to be getting those because of what we discussed last podcast.
Oh shit! I hadn't thought about that.
But I'm wanting a decent suppressor that's a known quantity, and B&T has two different styles. They have a 3D printed one that's titanium, and then they also have what I call a manufactured one and that I like the manufactured one because it looks like a real HK on the outside. The 3D one, somebody tried to do their 3D printing best to make it look ugly.
Yeah, I was looking at them, and I guess there's like a couple different sizes. I
right,
remember
yeah.
there were, and I don't remember if what I was looking at, if the suppressors in different sizes, I don't think any of them were actually SD barrels or SD suppressors. I didn't even think about it.
Well,
but it's like, yeah.
They specifically sell the ones that mount to a real HK SD type barrel. So it covers the ports in the back. And those ports basically just go to a big expansion chamber to get the velocity down. And then you have the baffle stack.
It's just the where it screws in that could be different depending on what kind of barrel it has.
Well, assuming that they're made for HK MP5 SDs, they're all going to be designed for the same type of barrel configuration because they also seal against that receiver trunnion. Usually they'll have an O-ring or something to seal against that.
Okay.
So the threads are behind are up against that trunnion in the rear.
Yeah.
There's no threads on the forward portion of the barrel, but I'm sure they got a support in the suppressor down out there. But they had two different lengths. They had like a shorter one, and then they had the standard length, which would be the same as the HK's length.
Okay.
For their SD.
Now, is it true? Tell me if this is true. And I've heard this rumor, and I'm almost afraid to repeat it because it seems so ridiculous. But I had heard a rumor that part of the reason why H&K even developed that gun was because they have an outdoor range that I guess is in an urban area, and they just really wanted it kind of for themselves so they wouldn't get complaints. Is that true? Am I saying that correctly, or is that BS?
I have never heard that one. That's a new one on me.
Like, oh no. Yeah, it's like if Mongo's never heard of it. I'm like, oh shit, that's not good. Never mind. I'm not going to edit it out, but it's like, nope, we just scratch that one out. Nope, that's not real. So
I do know that in the early days, when I say early days, I guess early days for me in the machine gun world, is that people didn't like the SD supposedly from a LEO standpoint of terminal performance on the bullets and stuff. And then Tim Bixler, which was used to own SCRC, which he was a fantastic machinist, and he lived here in the Houston area. And I learned a lot of stuff from him. And he sat there and started loading 158 grain bullets and using them in SD. And it was amazingly quiet. And what he was getting the terminal performance way up with that heavy of a bullet.
I didn't know there was 100. I mean,
it's a 357 bullet.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, that's a, or yeah, like, I mean, like the 158 grain 38, like the full wad cutter, isn't it like 158 grain?
It was, it was at the time it was a 357 bullet. Now Uzi, or IMI, I should say, but the boxes had big Uzi emblazoned on them. I don't know if you remember those days when the Uzi 9mm ammo, they had 158 grain loads that they would sell. Of course, this is back in the early 90s.
I'm sure I've seen it. I mean, it
was a blue box with Uzi printed on it with yellow letters, big old Uzi from IMI at the time. Yeah,
because I remember in the 90s running into IMI and being like, who's this? What's Uzi? And I'm like, oh, so did they?
Yeah, the bullets were full metal jacket, and they had if I remember, they had the nose of the bullet painted blue. Not sure why, but
that sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have absolutely seen that. I didn't know that was 158 grain though.
I may have a box squirreled away. I'm going to have to one day look through all my crap.
I remember in the early 90s, I can't remember this guy. I know this is a great podcast, so I get quiet. He was associated with the Army, but he wasn't in the Army. So, whatever. I'm not saying he was anything, but for just some reason, he would show up and he had this super hot 9mm ammo that would you had to be, oh, don't be shooting this in your other gun. Tear it like Hirtenberger ammo.
Yeah, Hirtenberger ammo. Yeah, I still got some actually.
And is that, well, we always, so okay, here's another thing. So in the 90s, we heard oh man, you can't shoot that in your regular, your 9mm handguns, it'll tear them up. Was that true or was that bullshit?
There was actually a lot of European nations had back then had developed 9mm ammo that was meant for SMGs only. And Sweden did it, England did it, IMI in Israel, they did it, and of course Hirtenberger had it as well. And they all had different bullet weights and stuff, and they were very hot ammo. And they would sit there and they would suggest not shooting in a handgun. Now, the only one I know for sure that you should never shoot in a handgun is the Swedish stuff. And I've got a whole bunch of it because I bought it. It comes on stripper clips for the Swedish K. And I bought a guy out of all the stuff when I bought my Swedish K. And that ammo is actually the ammo that is meant for, they use it for NIG testing of vest.
Okay.
Because it'll punch a level 2 vest. So
yeah, I know, like, I never even, like, it was always just Hirtenberger ammo. I didn't know enough back then to know or to ask, like, bullet weights. I just knew it was Hirtenberger. I don't know, today it's like 124 9mm NATO. Like, that's a standard that I always try to just go with. I try to even buy 115s. But whenever I ran into the pseudo associated, not associated, military, government, foreign people, they always had Hirtenberger ammo. And it was this hot shit ammo. And it was always like almost like a tell. Like, oh, okay.
You remember the Gecko Blitz Action Trauma, I think it was called, BAT round. Yeah, that's it. The bat rounds, which were it was a monolithic, all copper based material. It had a plastic plug in the nose for feeding, but when it shot, that plastic there was a hole drilled through the round, and that plastic plug would go out the barrel first, and as the bullet was going out. And I think somebody, I think it was it Chuck Taylor or who's the Soldier of Fortune guy?
Robert K. Brown.
No, Cocalis.
Oh,
was talking about it being used in South America, and that he was seeing terrible wounds from this stuff because it'd go in there and just shatter bones and everything, or mess them up or whatever. So that become like the hot ammo to find for a while too.
It rings a bell. Like, I mean, I certainly remember Chuck Taylor. I remember the Cocalis guy's name. Who's the? I don't know why my brain's doing this. Who's the guy that wrote or did stuff for Soldier of Fortune and went to Africa? Or no, he went somewhere. Was it in Laos? Ended up getting his head cut off. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
You remember? Yeah, one of these guys, like, someone else ended up seeing his head. Like, yeah, one of these guys. Like, Soldier of Fortune, like, people today, I don't think people today understand, like, how totally out of control, like, the people the Soldier of Fortune would. I mean, like, I remember dudes, you could get in the back of Soldier of Fortune magazine and you could answer ads and try to get a job working in the Balkans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There was some crazy, they weren't the only mag, but they were the main one. But there was a lot of crazy magazines back then in the world for gun nuts.
Yeah. It was like a lot of these dudes, had either been, Mozambique, Rhodesia. That was the big one for a while, like South Africa, and these groups. And then, like, they all kind of got this because like what executive outcomes got broken up or whatever happened to them, or was it executive and exec? They had some name, executive operations maybe, and then like they would bring their own Russian helicopters and do all kinds of crazy shit. Then they got broken up, and then they changed their name to the same initials but a different name. Like it was like the Blackwater of
the Forerunner.
80s. Yeah, it was just. I mean,
I think it was executive outcomes. I thought you hit it the first time.
Yeah, then maybe they changed it to something, but yeah, like just crazy, and dudes would just. You were one, like you were, because there wasn't really the internet, or wasn't the internet, you were 1 degree of separation away from, you could just send a letter or maybe make a phone call out of some of these magazines. And if you could just convince the right person, you might end up somewhere, as a gun guy with a job, not making any money. But and some of these dudes, just never came home. It was just completely off the chain how out of control a lot of that was back then.
Oh yeah, well that's the wild geese era, I'd call it. That movie.
Yeah, that movie is a reflection of that period. I forgot about that.
Great movie.
Yeah. Like this is going to sound like. Private military contracting didn't really become professionalized until the Second Iraq War.
Right.
Like it got because so much money got poured into it. Like the people that started in some of these companies and some of these outfits in Iraq and by I don't know when they screwed up, like some of them like 2000 and were there any contractors by 2000 in I don't think in 2003, probably the earliest is probably 2004, right? I don't even remember.
I don't remember either,
but I mean, some of these dudes had no background. Like they would just show up, they would buy guns in the local markets, hustle guns up, and then they'd all get like they'd buy these what's the Avalanche? Is it the Avalanche? What's the American truck? Is it the Chevy Avalanche or the something Avalanche? Like they would just dude was a surfer and then he's driving around, with a PK machine gun in the back of an Avalanche truck. Really has no qualifications to be there. It was just and then how it morphed into triple canopy, Blackwater, and a lot of this, training and vetting and having to shoot quals and go through pipelines. That wasn't the big, That was
remember the U.S. outlawed mercenary for hire of U.S. citizens back then, and that a lot of these guys were from Rhodesia and South Africa and out of UK. And they'd been involved in, this was still at a time frame, and I guess also Australia and New Zealand. But this was a time frame when these guys were still young enough from those wars and also the wars from Vietnam and stuff. They were still young enough, and they were wanting money, wanting a way to make money, and they didn't have any other skills, so they'd go do that.
Yeah, I mean, the last of the Bush War, I mean, like, dudes were, scraping up a living Bush Wars for 15 years. From
Chad and everywhere else.
From like 1970 to about 1985, 86, 87. And then...
The warlord of the week,
Yeah, and then some of those dudes who were young enough when they started that, though some of them early on did end up in, say, Iraq. But it was just like things are just, and you're right. I had kind of forgotten, like, being a quote mercenary, like even the term mercenary was like calling somebody like a murderer or a rapist. Like, you can't, like, I'm a drug dealer. You're a mercenary. That's illegal. You can't do that.
Yeah,
Well, that's why.
Oh, go
that's why
ahead.
a
I'm
lot of
sorry.
these dudes, but a lot of these dudes would be English, South African, Commonwealth dudes, because their governments were a lot more lenient on it.
Yeah, there was a story. Damn, I read this story and it hadn't been that long ago, but this guy hired out as a pilot. He basically assembled an air force for one of the African countries.
Yeah.
And he
I
was
remember all those
the
dudes.
lead training pilot, and he'd also fly combat missions with small, planes with small arms strapped to them, basically.
Yeah, I remember they'd get MI8s. So one of these dudes, I don't know if Executive Outcomes, if I recall, they had popped up with an is it Mi-24 Hind, like one of those Russian attack helicopters. And I don't know if they were in Congo, where they were with this thing. And they made a huge difference. I think that was the one that kind of started the beginning of the end, where they started outlawing a lot of this, because they basically showed up with their own air force. They would get these, they'd get surplus Russian stuff, or from corrupt Russian stuff, a lot of it out of Ukraine, by the way. Mi-24s, and then what was that jet that those guys would run? What the hell was
probably
that?
French. The French love to sell to everyone too.
No, it's a little Russian trainer. It's like their version of like if you're gonna go be a pilot in the Navy or the Air Force, you go and you fly this. You go through your prop, your prop flying, whatever, fixed wing, and then you transition to jets. And it's like, I don't know, like a Talon or something. But there's one that the Russians had. It's like their introductory jet trainer. And it's a small little, I think it's a single engine jet, like, I don't know, like an L5 or something. I don't know why I'm thinking L5, but they could hang, they had hard points on them. So you could hang shit. I don't think they had machine guns like built into them, but you could hang stuff off hard points, and fuel tanks on fuel pods. And so they would hang rockets and rocket pods and guns off these hard points, and try to use them as like a, ground. It was almost all ground attack stuff.
Yeah, I know.
It was crazy back then.
Yeah, the CIA was always digging into these guys because they'd turn up with weapons they couldn't get hold of. Like they got, like the first known Dragunov or something was, I think Kokalis or something had gotten a hold of one in some, conflict or whatever. And they were looking it over and testing it out. And the CIA wanted, to inspect it and everything else or something at the time. That's the rumor.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, wink, wink, nod, nod stuff between, like what the CI, the position of the U.S. government officially versus unofficially. There was absolutely a lot of truth to that. It's like, oh, we don't really allow that, but, you're going to be the select one that, maybe we'll turn a blind eye to if you help the right people. And like, again, because this was illegal for American citizens. So a lot of times, and see, this is pre-Iraq, these dudes, if they got into this big time, they ended up, if they were broke, they would end up living in like Thailand or in like Central America somewhere. And if they weren't broke and they were making decent money, or they wanted to stay close to the, to the Balkans, they would live in Monaco. That's how it was before Iraq.
Before people started writing books for making money that way instead.
Yeah, I don't know. Do they still do all that? Or is there even a market for that anymore? I know that the one guy, well, who's the guy? He's Chris Craighead. Is that his name? Christian Craighead, or is it Christian Head, or some SAS guy that was involved in like the hotel thing down in maybe it's in Kenya? Was he a mercenary, or was he actually a on duty officer? or like a military member.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know.
I know he's making I'll occasionally see an ad for him in the U.S. for this gun company's making the Christian Craighead whatever, and this maybe I'm getting his name wrong, whatever his name is. I think it's Christian or it's Craighead. Well, maybe it's Craighead. They're making a 1911 or a rifle or whatever. I think he shows up on some of these podcasts. I mean, there was a time when I was that was kind of illegal. It wasn't illegal in a sense, maybe it strictly illegal, but it was illegal in the sense, back in the day, a lot of people just thought machine guns and suppressors, civilians couldn't own them. They just knew you can't have that. It's well, actually, if you do things the right way, you hold your mouth, you hold your tongue just right, stand on one foot, and do this and do that. Yeah, this turns out some of this is legal, and that whole universe. I kind of, because of my age, I guess I kind of miss some of the Bush War people. Well, I don't know.
I don't think there's as many of those type of Bush Wars anymore, are there? I mean, either that or they're not advertised as much on the news or whatever. Of course, I don't watch the news that often.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There was some stuff I haven't really delved into that too much.
Always people trying to kill each other, but I mean, is it as quite as organized as it was back then? I don't know.
No, I mean, well, I don't know. I think, let's just be real. Just to be honest, a lot of these dudes, quote, during the Bush Wars, say from 70 to 86, 87, they weren't making any money. They were doing it for the jollies. You know what I mean? They were doing it because that's what they wanted to do. A lot of dudes went to Iraq were making, I know a lot of dudes in Iraq, they're making serious money. I knew dudes working GRS. I knew dudes still working for GRS. I mean, Triple Canopy. We used to deal with all these people. Blackwater, all kinds of this stuff. And these dudes, I'm not saying they made millions. I mean, especially for the actual people on the ground, but they could go and they'd be gone for a while and they could come back and they'd have a shiny penny. None of them ever really saved their money or invested it or did anything right as far as I could tell or as far as I knew. But during the Bush War private military crowd, these dudes drunk and broke and, dating cheap girls in Thailand because that's all they could afford. I mean, it'd be that pull some bar girl, marry some bar girl, then she'd clean their ass out. Then they'd go back and try to make some more money working in the Balkans, and then meet some other bar girl and the cycle would start all over again. Yeah. I mean, I knew more than a handful of these people that this is the way they live their lives. So,
I guess Ukraine is drawing some of them, I guess, to some extent, but ever since the end of the Cold War era, I don't know if there's enough. These smaller governments just don't get the gravy train from Russia or USSR back then, and we wouldn't be supplying the other side. So, they were getting some money on each side that they could spend on mercenaries back then, but I'm not so sure unless they've got blood diamonds or something to sell off to the market. I think they're no cash.
My understanding is early on in the war in Ukraine, they would very early on, they would take anybody. They would create, they always had the foreign, the Azov people, and they got a reputation for being something that it is what it is. But they would, if they would do the foreign brigades or but they would just take anybody. Like if you just, had anything, they'd be like, even if you didn't have anything, you could just go. But I think what ended up, eventually I started hearing what happened in Ukraine was they started having a bunch of trouble with people who would show up as mercenaries, private military contractors, and they were either, they didn't know what they were doing, but, they could kind of deal with that, use them or lose them. But there were people that were just fucked up, or people that they would go to Ukraine and they would prance around with guns in the rear areas and post it on social media, but they never actually did anything. And they would pretend they were like LARPing. And so I think the Ukraine government got to a point where basically you come into that country, they want to know who the fuck you are, and you have to do certain things, and you can get roped into these foreign mercenary brigades, and you have to meet certain standards. And also what they started doing is the Ukrainian secret, I don't know what to call them, secret, like their intelligence services, I call them Secret Service, the intelligence services, because they would start to catch Russian infiltrators or spies coming in through their volunteer mercenary system. So they've gotten real strict. It's not like it was like when James Yeager ran over there in the last year or so of his life. It wasn't like that shit at all. Like they weren't. They pretty much know who they're dealing with anymore. They're very on the ball about it. It's gotten very professionalized. So yeah, like a lot of that. But the beginnings of the Ukraine war were a lot like the Bushwars, and then once the money starts coming in, it's either government spending money or opportunities for people to steal money. But once money starts coming in, things start to change. So
right.
There was never any money.
More organized.
Yeah. So this isn't the way this conversation was supposed to go. I didn't expect any of this at all. Like, I don't know what we're talking about for Bushwars and Ukraine and MP5 SDs.
See what happens when we talk ammunition and we branch off into Ukraine, Bushwars and stuff.
Yeah. So, okay, tell me the truth. Because we discussed this. I don't remember the name of the company. So there's the British service rifle. Is it the SA-80 or is it the SA-85 now? The bullpup rifle that the Brits have.
LA-85.
LA-85. Then LA-86 is a light machine gun. So there's two companies that I know of. There's the one you and I discussed that's reproducing the LA-85 as a semi-automatic in the U.S., and I think they're like $13,000.
Right. That's the one that's trying to go strictly looks identical to the original.
It's like, manufactured almost identical. Yeah, like stamped receipt, all this stuff. And I question some of their finances, not because I have insight into it, just objectively from 30,000 feet. I kind of look at the way things are modeled, and I wonder if X doesn't happen, does that mean Y and Z fall apart and the company falls apart? Then there's this other company, Ackless or whatever it's called. They take the Brownell's BRN 180 and basically do a bullpup conversion and sell their system, whatever that is.
Right.
Because the LA-85 is basically an AR-18. I know that pisses people off, but it basically is. We've decided to get one of the Brownell's knockoffs. Do you think that sucks? Because I feel like you do.
Oh, that knockoff sucks? Or?
Yeah, the one that we're going to get?
I have I guess I have a crappy opinion of bullpups, period. But, and that's just this goes back a long time ago when, I used to read about, the UK troops, after they gave up the L1A1, the FALs, and they were fighting the IRA in the streets, and how the IRA would sit there and they could maneuver. They knew the UK troops would only go on the left side of the street because they could use the doorways for, cover, partial cover, on the left side, but they couldn't do it on the right side because you couldn't fire it from the other soldier.
Holy shit! I didn't know that was real.
Right. So that's why, the IRA would ambush them in such a way to make sure that they would force them into bad situations where they couldn't fire off their left shoulder. And ever since I read that, it's probably tainted me ever since, but I've always thought about that and said, well, why would you want a bullpup unless it's going to be ejecting down? Or I guess like the tuna fish, it ejects forward.
Yeah.
And of course, the tuna fish, it's a good gun from what I understand, but
well, no one knows what you mean when you say tuna fish. You have to say the model of gun that you're calling the tuna fish.
What, the FN 2000?
The FS 2000 because it's semi-automatic. The F 2000, yes.
Sorry, I was having trouble. I can only remember it as the tuna fish. So.
Yeah, the one with the toilet seat in the back.
Yes.
Where you lift the lid to look down. Literally, it looks like a toilet seat.
I initially named it the Guppy as soon as I saw it the first time at a gun show, and nobody else adopted Guppy. They adopted tuna fish. I thought the Guppy was a better name because it was kind of bloated on the bottom like a pregnant guppy, but you lost that pop culture battle. Yes, so. I know. I'm disappointed, but yeah,
hey,
I'm always worried. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, in my defense, I'm not like some big bullpup person, which I guess would be hard to believe the amount of bullpups I've bought. I just would damn, when am I going to have an opportunity to buy one of these again? And it's well, it's good enough. And I can get a flash hider and put the bayonet on it. And if I can shoot it a little bit, make some content with it, something breaks on it, I can get parts for it. The company, because you and I discussed the other company, and I'm not trying to not say their name. I just don't remember what it is.
I don't remember either.
It's like a $13,000 gun, and I want one, but it is $13,000. And two, I was looking at their model, and as a business person, it scares me a little bit because these companies, we've all seen this before with some of these companies, and then I'm having issues with, some gun projects I'm having too. No more projects. I want shit that just works. Where they sell this expensive thing, they have to sell a bunch of these, but they've already announced the next iteration that's less expensive. So that ends up, cannibalizing people buying into your first group of guns that you're needing to carry you through to make everything at least successful or to break even. And, Hudson had that problem with their H9 pistol because they came out with the H9, and before they even were done, really selling into the desire and the what do you call it? The buzz of the gun, they announced that they're going to do an aluminum frame one.
Right.
And it's it just, what the fuck are you doing?
Kills their own sales. I mean,
yeah. And it's just you need, and of course, something goes wrong. They didn't have any money to eat that problem from a vendor, a sole source vendor. It's my understanding. And I'm looking at this other company, and I'm just I don't know if I want to give them that amount of money and risk not getting a gun. And I'm not trying to, if they ever hear this, I'm not being a shithead about this, but also it's if they start, even if they deliver the gun, but they start running out of the money, what if the gun doesn't work?
Right. What if you have problems like Tommy Bilt's MP7.
MP7s. Yeah, the MP7 broke him. Well, it was his domestic. First, it was his G36 semi-auto that he sold, and then the ATF, I guess, turned around and said, by the way, you got to take all those back in. We're declaring those machine guns because they can be converted, I guess. So that he took it up the ass on that one. And then the MP7, I guess he had issues with, right?
Yeah, that was strictly, I think, operational. I mean, that's
he couldn't make the sale. So, I was looking at this repop with the AR-180, and it looks good. And I realized the gas system's in the wrong plate or the adjustment, and it's got some M-lock on it. But I'm like,
it gives a good representation, though, of it. I mean, it's you want to get the feel of how that rifle is to use to some extent. I think it gives a good idea. The U.S. gun market is a victim of itself in that the M6 or the AR-15 is so stinking cheap nowadays. I mean, I remember when I bought my first SP1 way back when they were available. They were an expensive gun back then. And all the other guns you saw were comparably priced. So other companies could compete. Well, nowadays you can't start a brand new gun design and everything and compete against the AR-15 because everyone and their dog makes them. So the economy of scale just kills you. So it's, I mean, if you think about it.
I remember when the AR SP1 gun, nobody wanted it. It wasn't a real gun. It was all plastic. It was a Mattel gun. Shot this little pissant caliber, and there was no wood furniture, and they were horrendously expensive compared to all the World War II surplus battle rifle shit everywhere. I remember, I used to go to gun shows in the 70s. As I was young, I was very young. I was a child, but I remember the 70s and 80s, early 80s, and that was not, unless you were like a gun freak. Well, most people didn't buy those guns. You didn't see them that often.
Yeah, the first memory. This will tell you how old this memory is. This was a store in New Jersey called Outdoor Ramsey when I lived with my parents in New Jersey. And we go in there and I see up on the wall some SP1s and when they're brand new. And I pointed to one of those and told my dad, I want one of those and I will eventually buy one of those. And my dad goes, what do you want one of those for?
Yeah.
And I said, it was so long ago that New Jersey hadn't outlawed them yet. And I said, I want one of those.
That's true.
I think it was around 1972 that this happened. So and of course, it took me to 1989 or 1990 before I bought one, but I got me one.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a whole different world. So you're not going to hold it against me for buying the knockoff?
Oh no. Well, the difference between you and I is I've got a bad affliction when I buy guns. My problem is if I don't shoot the gun, it'll eventually get sold. And it's a bad habit I have, but it's one of the habits I'll see something and I'm just sitting there going, man, that thing could be sold and turned into something else I'll shoot. And so it drives me nuts sometimes because later on I go, why the hell did I sell that? And that includes machine guns I've done dumbly that way as well. I used to own one of the folding machine guns that was it wasn't the exact one, but it was identical to the one used in RoboCop 2 that the kid used. The folding machine gun. Yes, I owned it brand new. Tim Bixler made those under Boatman's license. They were the M21. And I owned the brown. Each one was a different color. The one in the movie was blue. I owned the brown one. And I sold that damn thing for $8,000. And I still kick myself for selling it.
What do they go for now?
I'm not. I think they're in the 40s.
Yeah.
But it used Uzi mags, so it was great. But I damn if I can find I have a video that Tim Bixler produced on showing you how to take it apart and put it together and everything. And it used an AR-18 mount on top for the sights. So you could put an AR-18 scope mount on it if you wanted to.
Oh, that's nice.
But yeah, that's just a long list of one of the guns I sold that I'm like, you idiot.
Well, I'll tell you, look, there's a time in my life when I would sell guns, and I remember I went through a phase where I sold a bunch of these guns, like these odd military surplus guns, just so I could buy custom 1911s. But then I got to a point where I had so many custom 1911s that I didn't really shoot them. I mean, I shot 1911s almost exclusively because that's the gun I shot, and I was working at a very high level. But I had like my one or two or three main guns. I had the King, the Air, and the Spare, and then the rest of them were just superfluous. So I, started selling those off and rebuilding the military surplus stuff and the odd stuff, and that turned into the reference collection that gets used for John 1911. But I will admit, especially with all the construction, and then even this year, having my little illness, I mean, I've got guns I've never fired and guns that I haven't shot or made videos or anything with. And it's to the point where it's frustrating. Where actually today I was working out 3 drills. I'm going to shoot some drills this week with the Robinson M96 with the little red dot on it, because I got a red dot mounted to it, and I'm going to shoot some drills on video with that, and I'm going to click it in my little Whoop app so the doctor can count it as me working out. So I'm doing rehab while I'm shooting guns and making drills. So in my multitasking mind, I'm it justifies okay, yeah. So my goal is, I'm saying all that to say this: I'm not shooting enough, and I need to shoot more. So that's definitely my goal for 2026. This year, I'm shooting the shit out of everything. So
I wonder how many calories you burn for each round of ammo you shoot. Is it?
You know what? I think the app would probably tell you that. It would tell me. I can actually figure that out because it'll tell me how many calories. It measures heart and all kinds of stuff, oxygen. And then I just, when I hit end, save, then I go back through the logs of how many rounds, and it'll give me the calories, and I'll divide it by the amount of rounds, and there you go. I can actually get you the data. So
then you can sit there and you can take each round that's fired. You can take and convert the energy that was used to propel that bullet, convert that to calories, and see if they balance out.
Yeah, you're such an engineer. Yeah. Take a funny joke, and now let's make it into homework. No, let's not. No, we're not doing that. Yeah. How about inch pounds, Newton meters, calorie joules? I don't know what you'd call that. There's some term for it. What do they call that? Or maybe it is a calorie. I guess you could best be a calorie, right? Yeah. Because a calorie is a measurement of energy in the body, right?
Yeah. Pretty soon you'll have to buy a 20 millimeter to really start losing weight.
Yeah. You know what? I'm just trying to get healthy. I wonder if I could get my health insurance to pay for that. So it's hey, look, I'm just going to say this. When I was working SHOT Show and doing all this, and I'd go places and you'd see all these people with service dogs, and I'll never forget, there was this girl. She shows up at SHOT. At the time, she was pretty internet famous. I'm not going to rehash who she was, but she was very hot, and that's really why she was internet famous. Kind of in the gun community, she was really hot, figuratively and literally, for maybe a year or 2 or 3. And one year she showed up at Chacho with her service dog for, whatever. And it all comes out later. And I remember just looking at her, but like, what the fuck? You don't need a goddamn service dog. What am I looking at here? Like, you're not, whatever. This young, pretty girl. She'd been in the military. Turns out she'd never been in the military, had never served, had never done anything. Everything was a fake. It was all a lie. And I just was like, yeah, I knew that goddamn service dog was bullshit. Showing up places. It's just some excuse for some girl to have her dog. And, there was a time when you saw like, people were obviously abusing, the service dog system. You know what I mean? Like, it was getting out of control. I mean, it was, and I'm not saying that, I'm not taking anything away from people that need them, seizures, whatever, all this stuff. But yeah, but you just, there was a time, and you would be in a nice restaurant, somebody had this stupid dog, and you're just like, this isn't a service dog. Because the one thing about service dog is, real service dogs, you're not allowed to touch them. You don't treat them like pets.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like, it's not like, oh, look at me, So yeah, I mean, I don't know how I got on this, but yeah, all this fake shit, so. I mean, like, here's my point. So I'm sure that she probably got some insurance or somebody to sign off on that dog. I can get whoever my insurance company is now to maybe buy some ammo for a belt bet. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Like, put it on the HSA or something.
I was about to say, get your doctor to write a script for ammo and you'll be set.
Well, if I can prove in documentation, calorie per round.
Yeah. I want to really lose weight. I want +P+ ammo this time, Doc.
What diet are you on? I'm on the Hirtenberger diet. There's the title of the podcast right there. Is it Hirtenberger?
It is Hirtenberger, yeah. It's manufactured in Switzerland.
Yeah. Hirtenberger. I'm on the Hirtenberger diet. There it is right there. So, well, anything else you want to cover before because I don't want to do,
We drag on more.
Yeah, we'll drag on more. I want to do more frequent podcasts, and I still have to get this thing edited and published before I go to bed. It's 10 o'clock. So, anything else before we toss it?
The only thing I was thinking of, did you happen to see Grant's video on shooting drones?
Oh, you mean Grantham?
Yeah, Grantham's.
No, I haven't
he did a video.
I know there's new ammo.
Yeah, he did a video this week on shooting drones, and I guess he had a guy that had actually been flying drones over there for the Ukrainians.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he also had a guy who did a tour or two over there. And I thought it was just some interesting outcome that came from it. It's worth watching. Maybe we can discuss it next podcast after you watch it or something. Yeah,
I will. I mean, on this podcast, I have made the following prediction, and I'm standing by it. In our lifetime, and I don't mean like far off in the distant future, but in our lifetime, sooner rather than later, drones will be more regulated than machine guns in this country. I promise you that's coming.
Yeah.
And when I first said that, people were like, "Nuh-uh." Now it's like, "Uh-huh."
Right to bear propellers.
Yeah, I mean, just, like, people just don't even realize, like, it's going to be full license, photograph, background check, fingerprint. Because, I mean, even like some of these little drones that can't carry a whole lot of weight, like you're like, oh, it's not big enough to do this or do that. You could still, tape a knife to one of these things and the thing's doing 30 miles an hour and you could drill it into somebody.
These were a lot faster than 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, but some of these drones, like you see these kids, like they race them. And
that's what this guy was using, was one of the racing style drones, and he was plowing through there. It looked like it was way over 60.
Yeah, but all it's going to take is like Like I remember there's watershed moments that kind of change things, like John F. Kennedy getting shot in the open top car, the dude shooting Reagan, there was the grenade attack against Bush, which nobody talks about. It's a miracle he's alive. And, like there was the incident where there was the girl, she was an actress on a show called Mork and Mindy. And there's this crazy, I think it's Mork and Mindy, this crazy stalker guy, and he showed up at her apartment and shot her right in the doorway, like a .44 Magnum. And like that was the beginning moment of where they started taking stalkers and celebrities seriously. It changed everything. There's going to be something that happens in this country. I don't know what it's going to be. And it's not going to be, it could be terrorism, and it could be a war. Just imagine a scenario where the president's taking off out of Andrews, and all of a sudden every DJI drone within, 10 miles of that airport suddenly goes for the engines of that airplane, trying to bring it down. You know what I mean? Like they're not armed, they're owned by private people, but all of a sudden DJI grabs all the drones and sends them like a preemptive strike, a decapitation strike. I mean, it probably wouldn't take down Air Force One because those engines are pretty durable. They shoot frozen turkeys through them. But, there'll be something that happens where, I don't know, who's like some crazy dude will take a knife and he'll strap it to a racing drone, and Taylor Swift's going to walk out of her front door and she's going to get a buck knife right through her skull. Like something you've never seen before, and people are going to lose their shit on these drones. It's coming. I don't know what's coming, but it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, another thing we ought to maybe settle on the deal is talking about ammunition.
Still dragging the pot on. No, go ahead. Go on. What is it?
The bullshit, the way the story was framed on the ammunition, quote, not matching the shooter's gun on the Charlie Kirk shooting.
You know what? I haven't even looked into it. I just assume that's a ballistics problem because the bullet was deformed.
Right.
We'll
they just changed the title of it. It was so egregious. I thought it was. Yeah.
But hey, Candace Owens. Now, hey, we've never been closer. We've never been closer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Bullets don't match. Yeah. Okay. It's a conspiracy. Yeah. Okay. That just pisses me off. But whatever. So all right. We were having such fun talking about the tuna gun and the toilet seat, and now it's the disappearing bullet theory and the knife to the head drone attack. So, all right. Well, this wraps up episode 400 of the John 1911 Podcast. If you want to see numerous stories or pictures and links with anything we discuss, please go to the website at john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good night. Say good night, Mongo.
Good night, Mongo.